Good morning, and welcome to our Shmiras HaLashon class, continuing in Book 2. And we are continuing to discuss the different ways in which Lashon Hara and other bad practices permeate the Parshios of the Torah. It is, and if you are, you can always say that if you're never sure what you want to talk about during a Parsha class, you can always come back, refer to these videos, and simply go through all of the interesting information that is contained therein regarding Lashon Hara and the Parshios, and different ways that we can improve just by seeing these cases. So now we're in a new book. We are in Sefer Shmos and Parshas Shmos. So the parasha this time, he opens with a section here about Moshe, and so we're not going to talk about the first half about it. Okay. So we've discussed this previously back in chapter 4, but basically that Moshe said that makes a statement that he was concerned about seeing having the Lashon Hara spread about him from the two people who were fighting. So there's always that to go back to. So that's a big thing in the parsha. So go back to, and that's in book 1, chapter 4. Okay. Now we should also talk about. It says that later on in that parsha, there's a conversation between God and Moshe Rabbeinu, and it goes like this. Moshe says about the Jewish people, he says to Hashem, as at the burning bush, that you're not going to believe me and not listen to my voice. They're also going to deny that God ever appeared to me. Okay? And then God says back to him, what's with your hand? Okay, so that's all the quote. So the question, the Chafetz Chaim says, I don't understand. What is this thing about which he's being particularly upset about? Meaning what Hashem is being upset about. So isn't this a normal thing to ask? How do I know God really sent you? I don't know that he really sent you. How am I supposed to know? They need to have some type of sign. They have some type of recollection to demonstrate that this is a communication that actually happened. That you can't walk around with Hashem to say, no, hey, look, Hashem's with me, right? You can't do that. So you have to somehow demonstrate that Hashem is there to give you the message, okay? And he says, I heard from a very big Talmid Chacham by the name of Rabbi Eliyahu Shik, blessed memory. Okay, and he's quoting this word in the name of Rabbi Eliyahu Shik. The Chafetz Chaim is quoting this word. The particularness was to address the following issue: that saying that they will not believe me. Okay, what does that mean? That statement is a sense of permanence. What we should have said is, perhaps they won't believe me. Okay? Like it's something that they weren't sure about. It's something fleeting. We're not sure. And this is something that echoes a statement made by Chazal, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, behold, your days are coming close to dying. Right? This is in Devarim 31:14. Moshe responds with a praise. He says, for you, Hashem, there is the earth, there's the heavens and the host of heavens, and yet, what kind of response is this? So, this was the response. He said, when the Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moshe, you should also say something like this, which is by saying they shouldn't believe me. This doesn't have any other possible explanation. Okay, but there is something to be understood from the intonation of it by saying, behold, your days are coming to end, similar to behold, they won't believe me, as if they are certainties that are going to happen. And so that's why for Moshe this was such a difficult thing. So the response was, I have praised you with the word hain, meaning with the word to behold. And so that's why I say, when certain things are meant to be appreciated for their coming to fruition, that's why you get that same response, which is to say that I agree with you that it should look like that, it should come like that. Okay? And so, therefore, the Chofetz Chaim says, I have a interesting insight that you could say over here, that when he makes the statement, when Moshe Rabbeinu makes a statement, behold, they will not believe me, he is causing people to become front and center that are going to challenge his prophecy, just like we find by Korach. Okay, so the truth is that this comes well before they experience the truth of his prophecy, because we say in Sefer Devarim, chapter 11, verse 2. I didn't make this deal with your children who didn't know and didn't see all of the wonders that Hashem wrought. Okay, and that he did to Adasan and Aviram, the sons of Eliab, which is later on in Pasuk Vav over there, so that's 11:6. And then in Pasuk Zayin it says, "For your eyes have seen all the tremendous things that Hashem has done." So with everything here, he's talking about things that they had observed and experienced, which was not the case by Korach, Dasan, and Aviram, because they were starting to question him, even though they had experienced all these things. So back to our parsha, it says, "Maza biyadacha." What's in your hand? Okay, and Moshe responds, "It's a stick. It's a stick." Right? What's a mata? So Rashi explains the following. Right? This is back in chapter 4, verse 2, back in Shmos. He says, when he's asking him, what's in your hands, is what is it in your hand that's worthy to use for striking somebody? And for this you could understand that all types of bad speech and tattletaling and talebearing are included in this statement, because we see a similar case that's explicit about this in the Tosefta of Peah. Okay, it says the following. This Tosefta of Peah says that these type of punishments are meted out here in this world, tit for tat, mida k'neged mida. Okay. And the principal amount of it, that you should have known better from doing it, is whatever is the main thing that you did, the principal amount, whatever the principal things that you did, and that's going to go towards whatever your final resting place looks like. Excuse me. Okay, so we don't need to bring some crazy explanations as to why he had to be punished for this. It has to do with the fact that what was immediately not just right. The idea is a play on what's happening right now. So it was like not only miyad but biyad. Miyad is right now, which means from my hand, and biyad means in my hand. So therefore, the punishment I'm looking to mete out comes from something that's literally in hand. And Rashi brings a second explanation, which explains it the following way: that everybody should know that this is a staff, okay? And it really can't do that much damage. So I'm going to show you how you can see much more amazing things from this very simple staff. And this is to make an analogy. We're trying to create a metaphor over here, which is that because of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu has sinned through his tongue, He's also finding that a small thing and a not very important thing can be blown out of proportion. Okay? And it can be so big that it can lead to somebody being afraid that they're going to perish for doing it. Okay, so he's saying to him, be prepared to see just how incredible the use of the staff is going to be. So what does he say? It's throw the staff on the ground, and it will be a serpent. Okay, that's the next pasuk. That's pasuk Gimel. And Rashi says, he was hinting to him that when you say Lashon Hara, that a serpent is created that prosecutes you, okay? And then it looks to actually punish you by biting you. And then God commands Moshe, grab the tail and seize it in your hand. And he was saying to him that it's going to try to run away from you, and that a person should never feel like they're never safe from Lashon Hara until you get the punishment for it. And then we say further that Moshe grabbed it. It doesn't say and he seized it. It says that he grabbed it. Why? Because this was something that Hashem wanted to happen. So it wasn't that Moshe Rabbeinu did it on his own, but Hashem commanded him to seize it. And that is important to note that this is part of the lesson. And by letting it continue to get out of control, it was even more of a danger. And so therefore, when Hashem said to take away the serpent, he was also saying he'd taken away this punishment. And it says it was once again a staff. And it says specifically that it's referring to the staff, which is telling us that a person who accepts the punishments upon themselves, that accepts that they're going to come, immediately whatever judgment is coming to them from the heavens is going to be dissolved. And we learned something similar to like this story in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, page 16b. Okay, that it says that one time Rabbi Eliezer was seized by apostates. Okay, these apostates came and seized Rabbi Eliezer, and they wanted him to worship idols. Okay, and they brought him to a certain general, or not general, but like a master of some kind. Okay. And so they brought him up on this place, this judgment, and the hegemon, right, the person in charge. He said to him, "Old man, do you really get involved with the silliness like this idol worship?" He says, "Like, I trust the judgment and the judger." Okay. And so this hegemon thought that he was getting a little bit of praise from Rabbi Eliezer. But really, Rabbi Eliezer was saying it's all coming from Hashem. And so therefore, the response to him was, it says, you went ahead and trusted this structure. So therefore, you are exempt from any punishment. And that's the end of the Gemara. And since Rabbi Eliezer accepted the din of Shemayim on himself, even though he made it sound like something else, immediately the judgment was lifted against him. And that's why the hegemon thought that he was talking about him, because it was a very honorable statement, but was made honorably to Hashem. And so Hashem continues speaking to Moshe. Now take your hand and stick it in your shirt. Okay? So Rashi says the following. Through this, Moshe would learn the consequences of lashon hara. I don't know why I'm yawning so much today. I'm very sorry. That through this, Moshe learned the consequences of lashon hara, and his punishment was to be smitten with saras, with the skin afflictions. Okay, it's not leprosy. These are deep skin afflictions that turn white like an eggshell. Okay, which is not how leprosy works. Even they translate as leprosy. Leprosy is not this. Okay, but saras, it's a strange thing. Okay, he doesn't get it. So even though it sounds like that in the first case that we quoted, that the person opening the Mishnayos was going to be what's it called? So he was struck with this, and he accepts the punishment, even though he previously was fearful of the serpent. That's just because of what we said earlier, which was that they weren't going to listen to me if I tell them I was sent by God. So Hashem's already told him, he said, number one, they will trust you, and number two, they will listen to you. Okay? And that's why it says later on at the end of that section on verse 31, and they believed him and they listened to him. Okay, and therefore it says back in this case, put your hand back, and he wanted to show him that it wasn't that his chest was causing the saras, it wasn't a communicable disease. He was trying to show that the sin was causing the disease. And as soon as he took his hand out of it, the skin affliction went away. So he shouldn't think that it was because of something else that was happening, or that he had some type of disease himself. But the idea was that the whole body should be set up and ready to be healed from curing yourself of the lashon hara, not because of just a random disease. Okay, so that's the end of Parshas Shemos. Let me see over here. We have some more Parsha stuff. Get some more over here. Let's do. Yeah. Okay. Let's also do chapter 14 here. It's really quick. We have a couple parshas here. Okay. So in Bashalach, what is the issue in Bashalach? So in Parsha Bashalach is obviously where they're going to cross the river. They're going to cross the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, right? Yam Suf. Okay, so they're past that already. It's at the end of Bashalach, and they're in Masa and Meriva. Okay, it's in chapter 17 now, and he says that through the reason why it was called Masa and Meriva is because the Jewish people were fighting there with Hashem. Right, they were arguing, was Hashem amongst us or not? So that's in chapter 17 and verse 7. And immediately after that, it says Amalek comes. So the pasuk is telling us that by putting the two things together, that by fighting with Hashem and the coming of Amalek, is to say to us that the reason why all types of people who are idol worshippers, they only come to us because of the fighting and the strife that we cause amongst ourselves. Okay, so everything that happens to the Jewish people happens for a reason. So some people have pointed out that in the writings of Yahya Sinwar, that he noted that the reason why he chose October 7th, 2023 to initiate combat against the state of Israel was because they were already fighting about the country was already fighting about judicial matters and reforming the judiciary, and he felt that was a good time to strike. Why? Because the Jewish people were at a time of strife, and it leaves them open for attack. And in many ways, that's the parallel, is that we should debate, and we should debate honorably and faithfully, but we should not initiate ourselves into fighting. Now, of course, that's something else. That's not in the statement over here. Now let's go to Parshas Mishpatim. Now the Chafetz Chaim writes about Parshas Mishpatim. It says Lo Sisa Shema Shav. Okay, so that's one of the laws. Mishpatim is full of laws, and he's focusing on that one should not carry a false report. So, was make false report? The rabbis describe it the following way. It's from Gemara Pesachim 118a, that anyone who says Lashon Hara, that person should be thrown to the dogs. Why? Because it says, do not bear a false report. Right? And why is that? Why is it being thrown to dogs? Okay, so we should read it that one should not bear a false report. And the next verse after that, okay, which is the one before it, is referring to not eating the vela, right? You should throw it to the dogs. Okay, so simply the Chafetz Chaim says that the dog himself is already trying to make noise and to scare people with that, with the noises, and sometimes it's trying to bite people who pass its way. Okay, these are bad dogs. Okay, don't have a bad dog in your house. People always ask me, "Are Jews allowed to have bad dogs?" They can have good dogs, can't have bad dogs. If you have a bad dog, you're violating a rabbinic prohibition, and this is the example of it, right? They're not allowed to have bad dogs. Right? Especially somebody who's just walking by and this dog is barking at him and chomping at him. But this is comes as a result of Lashon Hara. Right? The Lashon Hara, they come with the nasty things that they say out of their mouth and the terrible things that they utter, everything that they should remove that type of strife from amongst each other. And so therefore, it's imperative that that's a type of person who behaves that way should be thrown before the dogs, and they should scare him and bite him, as is expected. The Maharal from Prague adds another thing over here as well. He says that the dogs themselves were very careful not to wag their tongue at the Jewish people, which is mentioned at the Exodus itself, back in chapter 11, verse 7, right? Lo yecharatz kelev hashana, which was to say that it did not wag or throw out its tongue. Okay, charitz usually means to dig something through. It did not dig deep with the tongue. Okay, and this was the type of understanding that was given to the dog by Hashem, that they normally couldn't hold themselves back from all the barking, but that night they could. Okay, and so if by the command of Hashem the dog can stop saying bad things, therefore the person should be able to do so, and if they don't, their punishment should be pretty grave. That's the Maharal. Okay, and then he now goes to Sefer Charedim. Okay, Sefer Charedim is a different book. Sefer Charedim was a Kabbalist who lived after the times of the Ari. It's an interesting book to read. It's a Musar book. So he says, what happens that this is in chapter 7 of Sefer Charedim. He says, how is it that they bring people back, right? That some people are punished from heaven, that they bring their soul back to this world, and they come back as a dog, right? And so therefore he's saying it's a reference to this Gemara that be thrown to the dogs is not literally thrown to the dogs, they come back as a dog. There's a dog, well, no, to shut up when it's time to stop talking. Okay, and the last thing over here in Parashat Mishpatim, we say immediately afterwards, is in chapter 23, verse 2, that a person should not follow the majority for evil, for wrong things. Okay, do not follow them. And the commentators explain that even if you see a certain sin being done, okay, and a number of people will go ahead and continue committing that sin, you shouldn't follow them in the path of that sin. And therefore, even if you see a number of people who are normal people you recognize and they're your friends, and you see that they are constantly tripped up in this certain sin, and especially the sin of Lashon Hara, do not turn your heart to follow in their paths. Stay away as far as you can from Lashon Hara. Okay, so with that, we finish book 14 and 15. And then we're almost done with Sefer Shemos, but we will hold it here. We have learned a lot today. We've gone, we'll have one more parsha to go over in Parsha Shemos, which will be in Parsha Tetzaveh, and it's really interesting. We'll learn about it before we go into, and we'll do that next week, and then we'll move into the big parsha of Lashon Hara with Tazria Metzora back in Sefer Vayikra. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up, So look forward to sharing this information with you next time. But until then, continue learning, continue reviewing, and we will see you next week. Take care.